Story 1. This came to mind when Facebook Memories brought up some pictures today. This story is from several years ago, and the quotes I share are from old Facebook messages that I went back to review. I wanted to make sure I wasn't just paraphrasing. My goddaughter's paternal grandfather, Rick, retired right before her birth with a plan to earn extra money using his new camera by taking photos of all sorts of things. Rick actually charged his own son and daughter-in-law, who also happened to be my close friends, for newborn photos of Amy, my goddaughter. It was so unusual, considering he was her grandfather. One would think that capturing pictures of his first grandchild would be something he did joyfully and free of charge. They did pay Rick for some of the photos, but not for as many as he hoped to sell. I could not imagine a grandparent putting a price on baby pictures of their own grandchild. He would even post the photos on Facebook, but he had them watermarked so that nobody could use them without paying. At the time, I silently judged Rick for this, but it didn't directly affect me until I started posting my own pictures of Amy on Facebook when I babysat her. I was by no means a professional photographer, nor did I claim to be, but I enjoyed taking cute pictures of her with little props and setups. I did it just for fun and without even thinking about Rick. When I posted these photos on Facebook, always with permission, I tagged Amy's mom. Family members would often comment about asking permission to save or print pictures. I had no problem with that at all. In fact, I even printed some of the pictures, completely free of charge, for older family members when they asked. Sometimes, I would even spend my own money to mail printed photos to them. I loved Amy dearly then, and I still do now, so it made me happy that people wanted these pictures of her. To me, it was just another way to share joy with her family. When Amy was close to a year old, and I had already become the person in the family who regularly took and shared sweet photos of her, I received a Facebook message from Rick. In the message, he said, "I started taking photographs of Amy, and you are stealing my income. You need to start charging, and we need to define a financial split since I was the first to publish photos of Amy." I ignored that message because it meant absolutely nothing to me. Amy wasn't a celebrity, nor were my pictures anything extraordinary. She was simply a tiny little girl, and the only people who had any real authority over her photos were her parents. They loved that I was taking and posting cute pictures of her, so to me, that was what mattered. Not long after, Rick went further. He told me that I was stealing business from him and warned me that he would make sure I was banned from certain local businesses. We lived in the same suburb, but the whole idea was completely ridiculous because I only ever took pictures of my goddaughter in my own home. There were never any businesses involved in what I was doing. Still, Rick tried to carry through with his strange threats, attempting to have me banned from businesses near my house. None of his efforts ever worked, of course, and all it did was make me feel even more frustrated with him. I saw his behavior as unnecessary and petty. Fast forward about 2 years later, when my son was at the age where he needed his senior pictures taken. Out of nowhere, Rick sent me another message. This time, he said that he should take the pictures for my son and then quoted me a price that was actually higher than what the most expensive local studio in our area charged. At that point, I had truly had enough of Rick's antics. My response was simple: absolutely not. Story 2. Okay, so hi Reddit community. This is my very first post here, so please don't be harsh about it. I was scrolling through YouTube the other day and came across a few videos on the "I don't work here" lady subreddit, and some memories started coming back to me. Anyway, here it goes. I am an apprentice in carpentry, currently in my last year, and I am having a great time with it. My boss is relaxed and easy to get along with, and I'm on excellent terms with him. We are on a first-name basis. I even have his private number, and overall, things are going well. We were working at a new building site at the time. I was dressed in my brown work trousers, a white shirt, and proper work shoes, the kind with steel caps for safety. This detail will become important later, so keep it in mind. That day, we were moving furniture, building some items, and laying down flooring, just like carpenters normally do. I had never met the owners of the property, but from what I had heard, they were extremely wealthy since they had purchased the building for around 1 million euros. Yes, I am European, and no, I won't be converting the amount because, honestly, I have no idea about exchange rates, and I'm too lazy to figure it out. Anyway, back to the story. My boss had to leave for a while to help out one of our coworkers, so I was left alone to finish up the flooring. Once I was done, I decided to take my lunch break. By law, I have to take it, and my boss also instructed me to do so while he was away. And oh boy, I bet you can all imagine what happened next. I went outside, sat down on the sidewalk, pulled out my sandwich, lit a cigarette, and started to take my break. The painters were still working at that point since they had already taken their break an hour earlier. The property owner had seen them eating earlier, and that was completely fine after all. It's legally required for us to have breaks. So, here is where things began. This lady, let's call her Mrs. M, came by to look at the site again. She saw me sitting there and walked right over. In a very noticeable manner, she cleared her throat to get my attention. I looked up, and the conversation went like this. Hello, miss. Can I help you? I asked. Yes, you can. You can stop sitting around and get back to work, she replied. Mind you, I had only been on my break for 10 minutes and still had 20 left. And yes, I am very specific with my break times because I love making sure my work gets done. Miss, I'm taking my break, I explained. You already took it an hour ago. I want to speak with your boss about how lazy you painters are. That's when it finally clicked. She thought I was one of the painters. And, to be fair, I did have some paint on my shirt and trousers from the day before since we had been painting furniture. I am deeply sorry, miss, but I think you may have me confused with someone else, I told her. I certainly do not. You had better get back to work, or I will not be paying for your services, she said firmly. Miss, I really don't work, I started to explain. Of course you do. Now call your boss. I'll be having a word with him right now, she demanded. She said all of this with quite a bit of frustration. I understood that she was paying a large sum of money for this property, and I was admittedly tired from kneeling on the floor all day. Still, I pulled out my phone and dialed my boss, let's call him K. Hey K, it seems like I have a problem here, and you need to speak with someone, I told him. Hey Mooney, what's wrong? Are you doing all right with work? Have you taken your break? He asked. Yeah, everything is fine. I just finished laying the floor you told me to, and I'm about 10 minutes into my break. But the owner, I think, believes I am a painter. Just put her on the phone with me, he said. It was only then that it finally registered with the owner what was happening. When I mentioned my boss, she began to blush slightly, but still took the phone from me and started talking with him directly. Hello, Kay. I'm so sorry, she said quickly. I thought your worker here was slacking off since he was outside eating instead of working. I assumed he was one of the painters. Yes, I understand it's not an issue. I know they are legally entitled to their breaks. No, it's all sorted out now. After finishing her call with my boss, she handed my phone back to me. She apologized over and over again for the misunderstanding, and even offered me a cup of coffee as a way of making amends. And honestly, me being me, I didn't turn it down. Free coffee, and right there in the house, instead of me walking 10 minutes to find a coffee shop. There was no way I was going to refuse that. From then on, she wasn't rude or dismissive at all. She wasn't really a Karen type of person. Either she had simply been puzzled and confused by the situation. Once she realized her mistake, she became very polite, and we actually had a nice little chat afterward. In the end, no real harm was done. Still, I almost had a panic attack and felt my anxiety creeping up during the incident. But that's another story tied to my health issues, which I'll save for another time. Story 3. 5 days ago, I was about to leave for my morning commute to the university when my car refused to start. What struck me as odd was that the fuel gauge showed it was completely empty, even though I had just filled the tank the day before. I immediately told my mother what had happened, and she allowed me to use her car instead. However, to my disbelief, the exact same issue occurred with her car as well. We soon realized that we were not the only ones dealing with this strange situation. As the day went on, more neighbors in our apartment complex began to notice the same issue: completely empty fuel tanks despite filling them up earlier. Many of them were frustrated and upset, and complaints started pouring into the apartment management office regarding the incident. Since I still needed to get around, I decided to walk to the nearest gas station with 2 empty gas cans. I used them to fuel up my own car, then went back again to repeat the process with my mother's car. It was a tiring effort, but it was the only way we could manage at that point. My father, on the other hand, was already at work by 4 in the morning at the local donut shop, so he wasn't immediately aware of the situation. Unfortunately, I ended up missing my classes that day, which meant I had to spend extra time on self-study to keep up with topics I already struggled to understand. Later, I learned that not all of the cars in the complex had their fuel stolen. It appeared that only the cars parked in the front parking lot were targeted. That particular lot happened to be the smallest of the 7 lots in total and was also the only one that was not gated, which made it more vulnerable. Just this morning, the person responsible was finally caught. A neighbor happened to glance outside for some reason and saw a woman siphoning gas from one of the cars. He immediately called emergency services, and the police arrived shortly after, placing her in handcuffs. From what my other neighbors shared, the woman had been siphoning fuel so she wouldn't have to pay for it herself. Her excuse was that since everyone in the complex could pay rent, we could supposedly afford to share our gas with her. However, the reality is very different. Rent for a 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom apartment in our complex is about $1,409 per month, which already takes up a huge portion of most families' income. Many of my neighbors work in low-paying jobs, which means their monthly budgets are tight, and even their fuel expenses are carefully managed. I still remember seeing one man break down in tears because he knew he would be late for work and feared he might lose his job as a result. On top of that, he admitted to those trying to comfort him that he simply couldn't afford to pay an extra $1.40 to refill his tank unexpectedly. Thankfully, another kind neighbor stepped in and offered to give him enough money to buy gas. With that help, he was able to use the same gas can I had borrowed earlier to finally get his car running again. For now, the woman who caused all this trouble is being detained at the local police station. None of us really know what will happen to her next, but the entire situation has left the neighborhood shaken. It's troubling to see how one person's selfish actions created so much stress and financial hardship for so many families. Story 4. I started doing calisthenics about 3 years ago. It began when I couldn't afford a gym membership in college and had to find ways to stay in shape using just my body weight. What started as a necessity became a passion. I fell in love with the discipline, the progression, and honestly, the way it made me feel about myself. After graduation, I finally got a decent job and could afford to join a proper gym. I still preferred bodyweight exercises, but the gym had better space and equipment for my routines. Plus, having mirrors helped me check my form. The gym I joined was pretty popular with college students since it was close to campus. I usually went in the evenings after work, around the same time most students finished their classes. I kept to myself mostly, did my routines, and went home. I'd been going there for about 6 months when this whole mess started. There was this guy who seemed to think he owned the place. He was probably in his early 20s, always wore tank tops that showed off his arms, and had this attitude like everyone should be impressed by him. He'd grunt loudly during his lifts, slam weights around, and generally act like the gym was his personal stage. The thing is, he wasn't even that strong. He was fit, sure, but nothing special. He just acted like he was some kind of fitness god. I noticed he always seemed to be trying to get attention from the women at the gym, especially this one girl who came in around the same time we did. She was friendly to everyone but clearly wasn't interested in him romantically. One evening, I was doing my usual routine in the stretching area. I'd worked up to doing handstand push-ups against the wall, which took me months to master. It's not about showing off, it's just part of my progression. You start with regular push-ups, then elevated feet push-ups, then pike push-ups, and eventually handstand push-ups. It's a natural advancement. I was about halfway through my set when I heard some people talking nearby. One of the girls complimented my handstand push-ups and asked how long it took me to learn them. I finished my rep and came down from the handstand. I thanked her and told her it took about 8 months to build up to it, starting with wall walks and gradually working on the strength. Another girl said it looked really cool and mentioned she could barely do regular push-ups. I told her everyone starts somewhere and that the key is just being consistent. We chatted for a few minutes about calisthenics and different progressions. They seemed genuinely interested in learning, so I explained some beginner movements they could try. It was a normal, friendly conversation. That's when the tank top guy showed up. He interrupted our conversation and told the ladies they didn't need to waste time with party tricks. He claimed real strength comes from real weights. The girls looked uncomfortable. I just nodded politely and went back to my routine. I had a few more sets to finish. One of the girls said they were actually interested in learning some bodyweight exercises. The tank top guy insisted that he'd been lifting for 4 years and knew what real fitness looked like. I ignored him and set up for another handstand. When I kicked up into position, I could hear him getting louder. He started saying I was just showing off for attention and that real athletes don't need to do circus tricks. I came down and turned to face him. I told him I was just doing my workout and not trying to bother anyone. He sarcastically said sure, and that it just happened to be right where everyone could see me. I explained that this was the stretching area where bodyweight exercises are supposed to be done. One of the girls backed me up, saying they had asked me about it and that I wasn't showing off. The tank top guy asked if she was defending me now. The girl he'd been trying to impress told him he was being weird and to just let people work out. That seemed to set him off. His face got red and he stepped closer to me. He asked if I thought I was so special with my gymnastics routine and if I thought I was better than everyone else. I told him I didn't want any trouble and was just trying to finish my workout. I turned around and set up for another handstand. Big mistake. When I was upside down, balanced on my hands, I felt a sudden, crushing pain in my stomach. The punch knocked all the air out of my lungs and sent me crashing to the floor. I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, just pure pain radiating through my core. The girls started screaming. I was curled up on the ground, gasping for air, when I heard footsteps running over. A gym staff member rushed over and asked what happened. One of the girls yelled that the tank top guy had punched me while I was doing a handstand. The girl he'd been trying to impress asked if I was okay. I was still trying to catch my breath. The pain was intense, and I was worried he might have done some real damage. The gym staff member told the tank top guy he needed to come with him right away. The tank top guy protested, saying I was asking for it and acting all high and mighty. The staff member said he had attacked another member and they were calling the police. The tank top guy freaked out and said no way, claiming it was just a little push. One of the girls shouted that he had punched me in the stomach while I was upside down and that everyone saw it. More staff members arrived, including the manager. They helped me sit up and asked if I needed medical attention. I was starting to breathe normally again, but my abs felt like they were on fire. The manager announced they had security cameras throughout the gym and would be reviewing the footage and cooperating fully with police. The tank top guy said this was ridiculous and that they were going to ruin his life over some show-off. His crush told him he was disgusting and that she never wanted to see him again. The police arrived about 10 minutes later. 2 officers took statements from everyone who witnessed what happened. The girls, other gym members, and staff all confirmed the same story. One officer arrested the tank top guy for assault and read him his rights. Even while being arrested, the tank top guy couldn't stop making it worse for himself. He kept ranting about how I was hogging all the attention and deserved what happened. The second officer asked if I wanted to press charges. I said absolutely, explaining that he could have seriously injured me. The officer told me I'd need to come to the station to file a formal report. The manager pulled me aside when they were taking the tank top guy away. He said they were banning him permanently from all their locations because this kind of behavior was completely unacceptable. He also offered me a free month membership for what I went through. I thanked him and said I appreciated that. I ended up going to the hospital that night just to make sure nothing was damaged internally. Thankfully, it was just bruising, but it could have been much worse if I'd landed wrong when I fell. The court case was pretty straightforward. The security footage clearly showed him walking up behind me and delivering a deliberate punch while I was in a vulnerable position. Multiple witnesses testified, and his own statements to police where he admitted to hitting me because he was jealous sealed the deal. He was convicted of assault and ordered to pay my medical bills plus damages. He also got community service and had to attend anger management classes. Word spread around the local fitness community about what happened. His reputation was completely ruined. The girl he'd been trying to impress made sure everyone knew what kind of person he really was. He ended up having to find gyms in other parts of town because nobody wanted him around. I kept doing my handstand push-ups. If anything, the whole experience made me more determined to continue improving. The other gym members were incredibly supportive, and I even started helping some of the newer people learn basic calisthenics movements. This guy learned the hard way that actions have results. He threw away his gym membership, his reputation, and his freedom for a few seconds of jealous rage. Meanwhile, I just kept doing what I loved, surrounded by people who actually appreciated dedication and hard work instead of trying to tear others down. Story 5. I have an overbearing, emotionally unstable mother. See previous post for an example. She recently was in the process of selling her mobile home to move in with my brother because his partner is having their second child, and my mom was going to help with childcare, cleaning, cooking, etc. Well, she sold her place and was at my brother's house for 48 HRS before getting into an argument with his partner about using a pitcher for coffee. Yep. Brother's partner asked her not to use that specific pitcher because it couldn't go in the microwave or something, and my mom basically told her if she's going to live there and help her out. Brother's partner shouldn't nitpick everything, to which my brother's partner said, "This is my house." For reference though, my brother's partner has never worked even before having one child, never paid a dime towards the house or the kid or anything they own. My mother is the one who paid to get them in the house and bought all their house stuff, furniture, etc. And in general, if I'm being honest, my brother's partner is a 35-year-old who sits on the computer playing Roblox all day while sticking her 3-year-old child in front of Cocomelon, so yeah, there's that. Anyways, my mom got very angry when she said it's her house, so she got her things and left to my other brother's place 2-bedroom trailer, but he has Asperger's high functioning, but difficult at times, and they've been butting heads over little things as well. Like he tells her to treat his place like an infant, so she doesn't break anything, which upsets her. So she doesn't want to stay with him. She got $5,000 for her mobile home BTW, but she's horrible with money, so she's freaking out and keeps trying to guilt me into letting her live with my partner and I, who live an hour away, for many reasons, my sanity included, and she keeps calling me saying she can't believe she's being treated this way by us, even though I really have nothing to do with the brother's partner drama, but she's making it about wanting to live with me, and I'm trying to help her find a place to live. She wants it closer to me, so I said okay, sent her like 30 affordable rentals, and I doubt she's even looking at them because she really probably just wants me to say she can live with me for some reason. But I cannot do it. She is healthy and capable of living alone, doesn't need a caregiver or anything. A couple years ago, when I lived out of state with my partner, she decided she needed to come live with me, so I said okay, and she stayed for 2 weeks before being so angry about the way I was treating her that she moved back to our home state. All I did was ask her to not come into my bedroom and wake me up in the morning, because my partner and I often sleep naked, and it's a bit inappropriate and inconsiderate to him to just come in instead of waiting for me to wake up or text me or something. I'm not going to go into it too much, but I am 24 years old and I cannot live with her. We do not get along when we live together, there are always issues, and she always feels mistreated, even when I just want minor boundaries as an adult human. I can't take it. I can't talk to her because she thinks boundaries and mental health are ridiculous, and that I'm being cruel to her. She said she wanted to come up in my area for the weekend to look for places, and that she'd stay in a gross rundown hotel. She always guilt trips me for the time being, so I said she could spend just the weekend here to go look for places, so she doesn't have to waste money on a hotel. But I honestly have a bad feeling she's going to come here and try to stay, and then freak out on me when I repeat why it won't work, and I just want my own space to live in as an adult. Because of this, she says she doesn't know why she's even alive anymore, and guilts me more and more because I don't want her to live with me. Am I wrong for thinking that's a bit much? She makes me feel like I'm a horrible person for not being fine with whatever she wants. I really wish I could tell her to just take a break from my brother's partner, stay with my other brother for maybe a week, a couple days at my place if she doesn't get pissed off and melt down before then, which is 50-50, and then go back to brother's partner and set some boundaries or expectations about things like sharing spaces, items, and etc. like an adult. But she will act like that's crazy if I suggest it. She can't have a conversation like that. It's either let her do whatever she wants, or you are a horrible, cruel person for telling her not to or feeling any type of way because she's done so much for you and etc. I need help. The weekend hasn't even started yet, but I'm feeling so drained. Story 6. Okay, this one is juicy, albeit semi-long one, but first a background info. I'm 55, male, autistic, Asperger's, and sufferers with Tourette's when hyper-excited or stressed out. I own a graphic design operation and have a gorgeous Downs teenager in the front of the shop, which I adore and treats like a daughter. The front of the shop is a little too tight for my power chair, which is why I always use the rear entrance. Now to the story. I showed up a little late for an interview with a prospective manager, and as I pulled into the disabled area outside the shop, a woman come up to me demanding why I was parked in the disabled bay, as clearly I wasn't disabled, so I pulled out the blue badge and put it in the window and ignored her silly rant. It's fake. It's obviously a fake. I'm reporting you to the police. Fine, go ahead. I'll wait here. I smiled sweetly at her. Soon enough the police arrived and asked what the commotion was about. Karen told them I was blatantly disregarding the laws and parking in the disabled bay. I asked the nice officer if I could exit my vehicle and explain. I pressed the button on my console and the boot popped open. Then I began to drive my power chair out the back and down the ramp. Karen's jaw dropped so far she almost had to retrieve it from the pavement. Anything else? The nice officer asked Karen before walking away. Now the juicy bit begins. I drive my chair round the corner and into the rear of the shop as per usual and set up ready for the interview, leaving a red-faced Karen spluttering, red-faced with the officer. Soon after I settled down, I heard the shop door open and a customer arrived. I can hear Janet welcome the person with the usual greeting. Hello and welcome to X shop. Please feel free to look around, and if you need anything, feel free to ask, and I will endeavor to be of service. Not another freaking one. You should all be aborted and less of a burden to the country. Obviously Janet was taken aback and sputtered out in, "Excuse me. You are all the same, no brain and all drain. I'm here for the interview, and the first thing I'm going to do is fire you and get someone competent instead. Now go and get your boss, as some jerk caused me to be late." By then I had heard enough and called out to Janet to show the person through. I could hear her barge past her and arrive at my office. The look on her face when the crapmuffin, as she so eloquently spoke of, was the interviewer, smiling sweetly enough to give her a cavity. I waited until the color finished draining out of her before letting her know how I felt about her. "Hello, please take a seat. I hear you have a great resume and are exceptional at managing a business and customer service. Now please tell me, who the heck do you think you are coming over all high and mighty? Yes, I did hear you berating Janet and telling her she was going to be replaced as soon as you get hired. Well done, genius. You can get the first prize, which is absolutely freaking nothing. Now get out, and if I see you in here, then I will not be able to restrain myself. But, but, no freaking buts. Get out, or you will be arrested for trespassing. I think she broke the land speed record exiting my establishment. Ah well, maybe the next applicant would suit. You are not going to believe this, but have it or not, there is more to come. Just got back to my establishment from our local supermarket, and I'm still crying with fury and laughter at what just happened. I took Janet to get her food with mine, so I closed up the shop, and we went to get foodies for us. And who do you think we see at the store? You guessed it, it was Karen. Now, not someone who is known to hold a grudge for long, I smiled sweetly at her direction and waved. She went paler than my sheets and hurried off. Well, it was her loss at the end of the day. A few minutes later, whilst we were at the deli counter looking, and behold, security arrived with Karen in tow. There they are, pointing to us. They are the ones who verbally assaulted me, and I demand that they are escorted out and banished from here. Now the security guard looks at me and Janet in bewilderment and asks what happened. Before I can explain, Karen butts in with the old "I already told you" routine. Get the manager here now, and I demand you give me a huge discount for the stress you and these people are doing to me. Well, I nodded slightly to him and said please do. After about 8 minutes or so, the manager arrived and looked at me and Janet. Before he could say anything, I said that this lady had a complaint regarding us and your retail outlet. Well, cue Karen's dirge and a lecture about how me and Janet's disgraceful behavior towards her was so upsetting that she had to go get security in to escort us from the premises. The manager looked at her with the look of "What are you smoking? Shall we look at the CCTV footage and take it from there?" Janet couldn't help herself anymore and muttered something to herself. The second time this week, Karen needs to retrieve her chin from off the floor, splutters something almost intelligible and storms off. "Don't come back now, you hear?" the manager calls after her.